and welcome to another episode of Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max. I'm your host, Tom Mongelli, and this is my co-host, Doug Max. Say hi, Doug.
Hi, Tom. You're the host, and I'm the co-host.
Well,
How do I? We're both co-hosts,
co-host,
or we're both hosts.
whatever.
And already you got to start with the problem. We need to introduce our guest, Kris DeBlasio. What are you talking about, Coast? Anyway, Kris DeBlasio, famous, funny, New Jersey comedian. Tell me if I say anything wrong. Funny New Jersey comedian. He is known online as the Horsewoman Whisperer. Please give it up for Kris DeBlasio.
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Kris, why the long face?
Tom said, Tom, you posted that today, right? You posted all those jokes.
Oh my God. You did Why the Long Face, Tom. That's not good for your reputation.
That's the one I left off.
He said, what's her name? Winnie? Her dad was the mayor of Philly. There was a bunch of them. Yeah, I've sort of developed a cottage industry with those horse dating profile pics, which I assume we'll probably spend some time
That's why I invited you, because it cracked me up and it reminded me, and we're going to talk about this. We don't have to. You can.
No. I lay it all out there on online dating.
So I was a very dedicated online dater, wasn't I, Tom? For years. And I'm a good writer and fast typist.
That's full
dater. I'm 65. So in my demographic, spelling and punctuation come in really handy. And that's a tip I'm going to offer you anyway. Always helps. Happy to edit your love letters, Kris. Anyway, so I did this whole bit about noticing women with pictures of themselves with their puppy and thinking I hadn't been successful online dating. And I started thinking, these women really love their puppy. They love their puppy so much. They're like online dating with their puppy. And I thought in my head, if I act like a puppy, I might get somewhere with these women. So I started my little strategy. Like, at dinner, I'd very subtle. I'd pant, I'd get excited.
Rub up against their leg a little bit.
The punchline of my joke is, well, it's actually a true story. She wrote in her profile, "If you perform, I'll give you a treat." This woman wrote that in her profile with her picture of her dog. So, this has started my joke. Anyway, it ends with me peeing on her leg. Didn't work out well. But for you, Kris, I started thinking of, if I was the sort that for whatever reason attracted horsewomen, I'd definitely leverage it, and I wouldn't leverage it like a cowboy. I'd go straight for the horse, like every little subtle, the Winnie, but you got to do it subtle so they don't think you're like fooling them,
See, now, unlike you guys, I don't attract horsewomen. I attract horses. And in the summer, horse flies.
I could see that. Yeah, so I'm actually going back through my Facebook because I started the hashtag. I think it was during quarantine last year when we first got locked down that March, April, when we really weren't allowed to leave our houses at all. I first started, that's when I really started hashtagging posts on Instagram and Facebook. And I called it living that Q life, living that quarantine life. And I would post silly pictures just like sitting around my apartment all day. And then it started in hashtagging dating Dr. D, which obviously is my stage name. And it was just weird profiles or weird things women would say on a profile or that they were looking for. And then it just started turning into, I think the first one was this picture of this lady on a horse, and the horse is in water. And it's not like the horse is like walking through like a little creek. Like have either of you been horseback riding before?
Yes, much to the chagrin of the horse.
Yes. But like maybe you walk through like a little creek or something and it's like up to the ankles of the horse. This water was up to the belly of the horse. Like they were like, a half mile out in the ocean. And I'm thinking, what?
That's
like
for water polo.
exactly.
What were you thinking, Kris? Were you thinking, how would this be if I was on a date in this scene with this woman? Do I float? Can I swim?
You share this. You said this is going to be on YouTube and there'll be
Yeah.
video on
Yeah.
Facebook.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen for a second and show you the picture?
Yeah.
It's disabled, so you're going to have to.
Oh, then you can't. Hang on. I have the power. I've got the power.
It could have been a seahorse, right?
Go ahead, buddy. I think you're good now.
Okay. It could have been a seahorse. Yeah, exactly. This is the picture, I think, that started it all.
Oh, a nice palomino.
Apparently, Doug is a horse expert. Who knew?
Either that or it's like the world's biggest
Yeah,
beagle.
The horse from today was a palomino too.
Was it? So
Yeah.
again, the point was, and I took a lot of crap. You see, there's 98 comments here. The point was, this was her. Again, these are the main picture. You know, you have like a main profile picture on these dating apps and sites. Yeah. This was the main picture. First of all, I can't really see her. She's got sunglasses on, and like I don't know. This just
the frightening thing for me about that picture is the horse appears to be wearing a mask, and she's got sunglasses. But that's
anyway. Yeah. And again, I didn't say there was anything wrong. I think people mistook my point with these. I just think this is an odd picture to choose as your.
There's an osprey nest, I believe.
Is that what that is?
I think that might be.
Kris, why do you think that it's the girl who's doing the dating? Maybe it's the horse.
Well, I think I said that on another one.
Okay. We're more.
If we just scroll up, I did the hashtag. One of the ones recently. I'm gonna have to get to more recently. This one. These were her 3 profile pictures. This was the main profile picture. Then this was the second picture, and this was the third picture. So what's featured in all 3 pictures?
Lips.
This spotted horse is the woman's only in one of the pictures. So I assumed the horse
is
for a date. Yeah.
Seeking yeah. What maybe the wrong website, Kris? Did you? Okay, let's go back to us now, so we can talk. No, it's okay. So
before we get back to us, I want to bring up our sponsor.
Oh, thank you, Tom.
Yes, our wonderful sponsor, Jack Hoffman of J. Irwin Productions. If you want to put together a comedy show for a fundraiser, for a private party, for a showcase in a restaurant, contact Jack at jirwinproductions.com. He's the guy. He knows all the comics. He's great to work with. His shows are phenomenal. And what else can I say, Doug?
Well, you can also say that although comics have been locked down for a year, comedy is coming back slowly. And if you write to Jack, you could actually find a very funny person that would be willing, and they're used to it. They'd be willing to drive like 2.5 hours, clean your bathroom in 15 minutes.
For a slice of pizza.
But you got to let them do comedy while they're cleaning your bathroom. And Jack can hook you up with 200 really funny, talented comedians. Not quite as many as OCD clean as me, I've been noticing, but you know they're out there. You pick them up for a song and get a funny story.
So anyway, that being said, Jack just had a show at the old what's the name of that place? Just over the New York border.
The Old Tavern Inn, the old
I forgot the name of it now.
Tally Ho Inn. No. You'll figure it out, Tom. You brought it up.
No problem.
Yeah, why don't you leave the show and Google it?
I could do that.
And then just leave me with the stranger Kris. Kris, where are you from originally? What's your comedy story?
I'm from Teaneck, New Jersey, which is about 4.5 feet from where I live in Hackensack, New Jersey now. My comedy story is, I was born a poor black child.
Put on the violins, Tom.
That's a great reference to the movie The Jerk.
Oh, that's right. Thank
The
you.
old Steve Martin film, great
Thank
film.
you.
Yeah, I kind of always liked stand-up comedy. I was always a big fan of it. Kind of growing up, I wanted to maybe be like a broadcaster, a sports broadcaster, something like that. And there were always some people that were like, boy, I could see you hosting a talk show. Like I had that kind of personality.
It's not your personality. It's your voice. You have a great, you know something, Chris? And I've only known you like 5 minutes. Your voice is like 10 times better than Tom. So I'm really hoping this show goes well.
So yeah,
I'm
so
sorry.
it was certainly not my face. I think it's my
stop.
personality and my
Stop.
voice.
You got the beard hiding it. You're
Voice
fine.
and the face for radio.
Yeah, the Don Imus face for radio, exactly. And I never I never really thought about stand-up comedy. I didn't even think about how you would do it, how you would start it. And then about 5 years ago, about 6 years ago, a buddy of mine who lives in the city and is a big stand-up fan as well, and is probably one of those people that's a way funnier person than me.
Oh no,
he-
I know what happened. You should do it, Chris.
Well, that's what
You're
he said
so
to me.
funny.
Well,
Have
him and
another beer.
him and I have been great friends since second grade. So we, and we have a similar sense of humor. And he's very, very introverted. He would never have the personality to get up on stage. And he was like, obviously, Chris, you do. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. Being in front of people, that is not, to me, that's the easiest part. I can get up in front of a billion people and talk. It's being funny. That's the hard part, like writing a funny joke. So he said, start writing some stuff down. So I started writing some stuff down. And then the short story is a girlfriend broke up with me and I was pissed off and I was like, I need to do something with my life. And
I have the same story. The
and
day
so
I got my divorce papers, I booked
Yeah.
myself in a comedy open mic, a new talent night.
she broke up with me on a Saturday. Tuesday night, I was on stage at Rivera's in Fairlawn, which Mario Gentile used to run back in the day. And I did 5 minutes of just dreadfully awful comedy. As we all did our first time we got up there. I maybe got a laugh and a half, and that was enough to keep me coming back.
I bet I know who it was from. Did there happen to be a very tall gentleman with a very short woman next to him holding a puppet with a stick?
No.
Because he lives in Fairlawn and he's a comedy addict.
Who's that?
Bill Aronson.
I don't think I know him.
Yes.
Well, he used to go there on Wednesdays to see Floyd in the next room.
Yeah, Floyd was in the other room. Yeah, so that's where he probably was during the mic. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'd
The
go
best
to see Uncle Floyd every now and then, and every time I'd go see him, he'd bring me up to do 5 minutes.
The mic would be outdone by the people at the bar and Floyd playing from the next room. So it was like it was sort of a good, like, tough room to do your first.
It doesn't sound like a good room.
Well, what I'm saying is it was tough. It was you were gonna have to really win over people to
Yeah,
get a
we've
laugh.
all been in rooms like, I remember performing once in an open bar. There were about 100 people there for a comedy night, but it was the fourth game of the World Series. So out of the 150 or whatever, 4 people were paying attention, and they're like, "Turn off the TV." What are you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Scheduling problems.
the first night was really funny. I had no idea how long what I had written out would take. And right,
So
typical.
you had plenty, I bet.
So I said to one of my brothers and my best friend both lived very close, and they came over. I texted them, said, I'm going to try an open mic for the first time. So they came over. I said to my brother, I said, listen, they're telling me you get 5 minutes. I said, I have no idea how long this is going to last. I said, can you time me? And when I get to 3 minutes, just give me a wave so that I know I made it to halfway, or, about a little more than halfway of the time. And Mario, I introduced myself to Mario. I say it's my first time, so I was like 5th or 6th on the list when, I was just in the middle of the list. So the guy who I was supposed to go after, he introduces him on stage, and then Mario comes over to me and goes, hey, listen, I got a friend of mine who just walked in. He's performing at, I don't know, Caroline's or something later in the week. He just wants to run through some of his stuff.
Oh no, I know where this went.
So I'm going to put him up before you.
20 minutes, and you got cut to 2 minutes.
No, the guy went up and did 10 minutes, but it was like, so I wrote a joke right there. I said it was like, I told the story, right? It was my first joke was I told the quick story of what just happened. I said, that's like, you're going to have sex with a woman. And she's like, hang on, let me have sex with Will Chamberlain first.
That's very funny.
And the comedian was, I don't know if you guys know Mike Morse.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Mike, and Mike and I have become friends since, but it's a very funny story. He's like, yeah, let me put up a seasoned pro and have him do 10 minutes that he's going to do for real in the city later this week. And then you can get up with your shitty jokes and your yellow legal pad.
So when was this, Chris? How long ago?
This was 5 years ago, April
Okay.
13th, 2016.
Nice.
It's been downhill
Okay.
since.
I live right near there.
What'd you say?
Mike Morse happens to live right near there.
Yes, he lives in Midland Park. Yeah, that's why again, him and Mario are friends, so he just wanted to kind of run through his 10 minutes before he had to go perform it, which now I sort of do the same thing, you know. I'm not at Mike's level, but like if I'm doing a show that I'm getting paid for, I'll stop by a Mike and say, hey,
You're not at Mike's level. Stop. Stop. How long have I known you? How long have I known you? I hate talk like that from you.
Well, I have not opened for a national act like Lisa Lampanelli for 3 years touring around the country. So
I got to open for Gilbert Gottfried. He didn't see my act. He was sitting in the back room. I did great. But evidently I was not that good of a driver for him. I get a call. You want to drive Gilbert Gottfried and we'll give you some. Yeah, I'll do that. So then I shouldn't say names, but then I get a call from the person coordinating this. It takes about an hour for her to explain to me how I should treat this person. I'm driving from New Jersey into New York and then all the way down south on the turnpike, like south of Utah. It's a horrible rainy
I thought
night.
you said south of Utah.
Yeah.
Actually,
Horrible rainy night. And I'm in my 99 BMW with probably 380,000 miles on it. Now, I was told that he likes to sit in the back and doesn't like anybody talking to him.
Okay.
I'm like, I'm giving this guy a fucking ride for free. And I don't get to talk to him. And he sits in the back. So when I pulled up to pick him up, I kind of pulled up. So they're alongside New York, you know, the only way to do it, one door could open. It just happened to be the front door. Anyway, very nice guy. And he was, I couldn't believe how funny he was.
I opened for him at Scotty's one time, and as loud and obnoxious as he is on stage, he's off stage. He's like the total opposite. Very meek, quiet, unassuming. It's weird. It's like Jekyll and Hyde.
You'd be a lot nicer if you were like that, Tom.
I guess.
No, don't say that. Okay, so Tom, I think Chris and I have contributed pretty well to the show so far.
Yeah. I want to tell you a story about last night.
Okay.
Now, Chris, you probably don't know. I just moved to a new town. I went from Lakehurst to Bayville, New Jersey.
Okay, I saw the post when you were looking for moving help.
Okay, thanks for volunteering.
Yeah, I hope you liked it at least.
I've been looking for restaurants in the area. I need a new place to hang my hat.
Right. Oh my God.
I stopped at this Italian restaurant pizzeria, and I've been on a diet since January. So I ordered a salad, and the salad was named after the waitress. And the waitress, she was young. She was a young girl, but very cute. Took a shining to me to the extent that she saw how much I liked the salad, that just before I left, she gave me another salad to take for the next day for free. I thought that was so nice of her.
Okay, look at that. She's
helping. Is that the story?
That's the whole story, and I had it for lunch. Salad is my life now. What can I tell you?
That's the story, Tom.
It's a half a story.
Tom, you need a full story.
Yeah, I was waiting for the punchline.
There was
yeah. So I thank her. I give her a nice tip. As I'm getting in my car, she runs out. And she's like really excited, holding this bag. I don't know what's in it. It's a salad. She drops it. She trips. She's so nervous being around a famous comedian like
So
me.
it was a tossed salad.
It became a tossed salad. And she bruised her knee. I'm like, here, let me get some band. And I got some Neosporin from my glove box.
What a storyteller. This guy knows how to tell a story.
That's it. So we're all going to do our Gilbert impressions now.
I do a Johnny Hollywood impression and it hurts me. Do you know Johnny Hollywood?
I do know Hollywood very well. Yes.
Very well. Close your eyes. Tell me if you hear him.
Okay.
Chris, it's Johnny. I came on the show with you. How you doing, man?
That's actually pretty good. You're right. That is pretty good. That's a good Hollywood.
I learned it when he told his shit sock story. I don't know if he's told that very often.
My first time I performed at Broadway Comedy Club, my dad and a couple of friends came and saw me, and Hollywood was on the show, and he told them the story about anal beads. And my dad still, this was like 4 years ago, my dad still talks about it.
I do not want to go back to comedy. Yeah.
It's my dad's favorite joke.
Hollywood did, it was a new talent night, and he was the MC, and he did 10 minutes on, I can't even say it on our show, even though it's our show. It was in the neighborhood of anal beads, but it involved the tongue, and I'll just leave it there. And I'm thinking, okay, 5 minutes, I get what you're doing. Okay, you're still doing that? You're telling us you're still doing that? This is an open mic. Aunt Esther is here.
Aunt Esther. She knows. Aunt Esther knows. She knows.
No, one of my favorite stories, Chris, early on in comedy. I think it was probably one of Scotty's open new talent nights. My parents both came, and at the time they were probably like 90 and 92. And the comic before me did a joke talking about a squirting orgasm. And a comic came up to me afterwards, after the show, and said he noticed my mother leaning over to my father saying, "What's that?" And he just shook his head. I kept away from my folks for like 2 weeks. I just hoped the 90 years old would kick in, because I did not want my mom asking me.
Could you picture sitting? Yeah, I could picture that, sitting at like the local diner having breakfast with your parents one Saturday morning, and you're like, "Okay, Mom, so let me explain to you what this is. Need more coffee?" The waitress comes by.
Yeah, so Dad, this is what you do. First, nice dinner. You know what I'm saying? Get the temperature of the house up so Mom's nice and relaxed, eh?
My mom has only been to see me perform, I think, once. And honestly, and it's not even just me performing, but it's any of the comics. She's so out of touch with like any like sexual innuendo of the day.
Anal bead. What's an anal bead?
Right. Yeah. Any sort of pop culture reference that would happen. And listen, I'm out of touch with half of the pop culture references. But
you and me both.
So like she would just be totally out of her element, which are people are like, "Oh, doesn't your mom come see?" I'm like, it's not even worth it, because I'd spend a half hour after my show explaining every joke.
When I was early on, and sorry.
Although she gets one of my jokes that most people don't get, and she loves it.
Okay.
So I do a lot of one-liners. Tom's seen me perform. And some of them are thinking, some of them you go, "I don't get the joke." So the joke is, who decided 5 was the right number of Ks to cure every disease? I see Doug's thinking about it. Because there's a 5K for every disease out there every weekend.
Of running. I was thinking of like potassium. K.
Well, that's the whole point, is I say 5 Ks and you're thinking K. And the first time she heard it, she got it right away, and she's like, "I love that joke." Because it is like every weekend there's like an autism one, an Alzheimer one, a cancer one, club-footed one, a schistosomiasis run.
I like the 5K for MS. They can't even participate.
Yeah. Or the 5K for Alzheimer's. It just keeps going. They don't know.
When was it again?
Did I cross the finish line? That's terrible because we actually used to do a 5K. I have a couple of relatives who have passed away from that, and we used to do a 5K for Alzheimer's. So it's terrible that I tell that joke. I'm trying to write a new joke about the same sort of thing. Is what happens, or how does a color get assigned to a disease? And what happens when we run out of colors? You know, because like breast cancer is pink, autism is blue, pancreatic cancer is purple.
Chris,
And is that how you tell how
you
important?
don't have to do primaries. You can do
Irritable
royal
bowel
blue,
syndrome.
cobalt blue, navy blue,
Right.
green, forest
And
green.
And when you get down, like your disease is unimportant when you're burnt sienna, when like that's the color you get assigned.
Anyway, I was a home improvement contractor, which shocks many people, among other things I've done. So I'm very familiar with like the Benjamin Moore color chip book. I thought the way they ought to do. I remember when Pennsylvania introduced the Voting Rights Act. My idea was that they should just say, come in, and if you're between these two Benjamin Moore colors, you can vote. Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but then it got stolen by somebody on the Daily Show, and I was complimented and angry. Anyway,
Now, I
so
once worked with a guy, Marty Oken, who worked. His job was to name the colors. He had to come up with the names of the colors of the paint chips.
Oh wow.
don't get me going, because I did an entire set about who was in the room when they decided that people are white or black. There wasn't one white person in the room that said, wait a minute, I'm sort of like a beige, and
Ecru.
he's not quite black. I'd call him more like a cappuccino.
Yeah, caramel.
Yeah. And I'm like, who? And then the United Negroes College Fund, don't they know that, that word isn't really, who is it? Oh, and the colored people, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And I'm like, that's an offensive name. Shouldn't they? They should update that to the National Association of African American People, NAAAP. NAPE.
Or people of color, POC. NAAPOC.
NAA. Yeah. NAPOC. I like that.
NAPOC.
And you could also be a secret defense contractor with a name like that. NAPOC. Right?
I like the way you said that. Who was in the room when they came up with black and white? Like there was a meeting.
They had, like at some point they had to change it. It changed from I don't know when it was, it was
like
Negro, and it became colored, and then black, and then African American, and some African Americans prefer black. And anyway, we're going to have a black person on the show, maybe never again, but if we do, we'll ask.
And like I said, now it's people of color is a term, is a more although I did ask
I got
someone
color.
one time.
You have nice color. Tom, you've been getting color.
It's my rosacea.
Are you out getting tan? You're right there by the beach there in Bayville, right? You're close to Tom's River, to the beach, seaside, all that. All
Well,
that
I
jazz.
have a part-time job in the summer. I sell shade on the beach.
Oh, Tom, I meant to ask you. I need to level my patio deck. It's got like a stone base, and I really don't want to rent one of those vibrating machines. I'm wondering, would you like come over for a barbecue and just like walk on the different stones a little bit?
No problem.
Just kind of pat them down. Tom, we could sell that service together. I think the shade thing, I think you got something there.
Right?
Yeah, me and you just walk up. We could cover a whole family. Like,
Yeah.
and we'll rotate every half hour.
No, but listen, you guys would be getting hot with my idea. You don't have to stand. You could just like roll and I'll hose you down. So you'd be nice and cool.
Doug, here's the thing. I'm going to let you know a fat guy secret. From June 1st to about September 1st, I sweat no matter where I am.
Like I said, I'll hose you down. I got a hose. I got a hose right by the patio.
Well, so my point is, I sweat when I'm sitting inside in air conditioning in July.
I sweat in the shower.
Okay, so neither of you will come in the house. It's fine. I got a hose. Listen, I don't know why. My brother-in-law is a docent at this state park in California, and he got to take us on a private tour where the elephant seals come.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, that's what gave me the idea of, leveraging my comic friends, kind of.
Are you saying Tom has very small ears? That's a seal joke.
Do you know that the male elephant seal weighs as much as like an NFL fielded team of, all 12 guys? I don't know what that comes to.
2,500
heavy.
pounds or something.
How many are on a football team?
11. So
11?
If you say the average weight of an NFL, even though you have the fat line, you say
253. What do you think?
Okay, 250. Say 250 times 11.
Yeah, so 3 tons, right?
So that's 3 tons. That's 6,000 pounds.
Heavy.
That's big.
Hey, Chris, what do you teach?
I teach middle school social studies.
Ah, that's right. Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
you. So what period are we in now?
We were talking about the Greeks, and we're talking about the Greek culture and civilization, and we really just started on the Greek storytelling, Greek fables, the Iliad, the Odyssey.
Be careful with some of those Greek stories, Chris. Hey,
Well, it was
Mr. DeBlasio, I translated the Greek, and I want to know what was that thing doing in Polonius's butt?
I don't think Howdy Doody is in Chris's class.
The what?
I don't think Howdy Doody is in Chris's class.
It's a great point.
Now, let me ask you, do they teach about the Hindenburg at all?
I don't do modern New Jersey history. They usually learn that in elementary school, 3rd and 4th grade. They do
That's
state
what
history.
I thought. I had a high school kid as a waiter the other night, and I mentioned about moving from Lakehurst, and that was the home of the Hindenburg disaster.
Yep.
And he had the wide-eyed look like the deer in the headlights. Had no idea what I was talking about. Never heard of the Hindenburg. That was odd.
Male elephant seals weigh up to 7,000 pounds. So yeah, 3 tons, as much as yeah.
Wow.
Look at that.
Thank you for that another great restaurant story.
Yeah, it's never ending.
That could be an offshoot of this podcast, Restaurant Stories with Tom Mongelli.
So I'm waiting.
Chicken fingers.
I meet him at a restaurant. This really cute waitress comes up. I meet him at a restaurant. This really cute restaurant waitress comes up. I'm really anxious and nervous. You could tell she was kind of new. She comes up to the table. Sorry about the wait. And Tom says, "You making a crack about my weight, you dumb bitch. I'm about to order food from you."
That just turned from a Doug Max joke into an Andrew Dice Clay.
Yeah.
You're making a joke about my weight, you dumb bitch.
So
I was gonna tell a story about something when he was talking about, I don't know. Oh, history class.
Yeah.
So we were reading, you talk about like some of the stuff. So I have 6th graders, and we were reading, have you guys ever heard of the Epic of Gilgamesh?
Yeah.
It's a Mesopotamian epic poem. And
I read that last night.
and it has traditional stories in there. It has a flood myth story similar to the, Noah's Ark,
Right.
all that kind of stuff. And we were reading one excerpt, and this excerpt was how him and his best friend became best friends, because basically this guy Gilgamesh, or this the main character, would go around and he would go into a town and he would sleep with a woman who was going to get married that night. And like, the way it is written is he betrothed in her bed, and this. And so the kids were reading it, and I was having them trying to interpret what they read. And once they realized it was sex, they all like, it was so funny because some kids didn't want to say it. Some kids were like, Mr. DeBlasio, is that what I think it is? And I'm like, yeah, you can say it. It's okay. And like one girl just like typed it out. She wrote S, then an E, then an X. I'm like, yes, I said, you guys can say it. It's okay. It's nothing, but they're still like innocent at that age.
Oh, that's great. I've taught every age kid in my life practically from preschool before the school knew any better to, all the way through graduate school and post-grad, even adults. But I loved subbing middle school kids, but I hated the teachers that gave me the sub work because it was all like, I'm assuming this person is an idiot and you're going to fill out forms and they're going to read stuff and you're not going to do any talking to them. And that was pretty much a lot of it. I did not care for that, but I loved the teaching part of it. I really did. And I loved the kids.
I taught kids in Patterson, business ed electives, marketing and business law and finance, accounting.
So a serious question for you, Mr. DeBlasio. One of the things that I often bemoaned was that my kids who went through a pretty good school system seem not to know anything about the current state of politics. So at what point, and I guess the complication comes because of the political polarization we have going on, but how do you talk about stuff that's really going on and these poor kids, and they're right in the midst of it. They're in we're having discussions about whether they're safe to get the vaccines, and they're old enough to kind of be aware of what's going on.
Yeah, I get in some trouble with this with friends when talking about how we should deal with this or what we should say. And we do have certain curriculum guidelines to follow, but obviously we can't be oblivious to what's going on in the world. Most recently with, I would say the verdict in the Derek Chauvin, George Floyd trial. And it's tough because there are a lot of teachers out there who have an agenda and will give an agenda-based answer to a question. They do in 8th grade, they talk about civics and government. And then in 10th and 11th grade, when you're talking about U.S. history, you really get into issues of U.S. history and oppression of certain minority groups, going as far back, obviously slavery, but then you go and talk about the Chinese Exclusion Act of 1882. And then the Immigration Acts of the 1920s, which limited immigrations for Italian, Germans, and Irish immigrants. The best way to do it is to answer the question honestly if a kid has a question, and do your best to stick to facts and not opinions. And if a kid does challenge you on an opinion, because I taught I taught AP government about 4 years. It was the year Trump was elected, 2016, or was he elected in 15? The election was November of 15. So I taught it in the 15-16 school year. And I always said, someone said, oh, how are you dealing with all this? I said, I'm smarter than the kids. So whatever side of an argument they can take, I can always take the opposite side of the argument. But because I'm smarter than them. It's not an insult to the kids.
But how do you deal when kids bring in the fact that something was said that was stupid or a lie, or clearly known lie, and there was an awful lot of that during those 4 years. I know lying is still going on, but
I do. We're not going to get political, but it's not as if Donald Trump introduced lying into the American political zeitgeist.
This is a fair point.
He may have perfected it, but he certainly didn't introduce it.
Yes.
Yeah. Again, I would encourage kids, and I was dealing with teenagers at that time, 16, 17. So they have a lot of opinions. They formulate opinions. I encourage them to seek out their parents for advice, not believe exactly what their parents believe, but that's as much as it's the school's job. What I'm to do is to educate them to be able to think for themselves. And I think that's where we get caught up in the political climate as teachers is, right, it's not my job to say whether it was a lie or not. I could say, listen, you should maybe look at that and see the truth behind that statement, but it's not my job to say this is a bold and outright lie, unless it was something like, I have 3 hands, right? A lot of, again, still a lot of it is opinion based, and you just try to avoid as much opinion based answers as you can.
That's a good point.
You're not always going to be perfect about it.
Nope. Anyway, just let your kids know if they're ever struggling with things and they want to know what the right thing to do is, that they can Facebook friend me and I'll let them know.
Inherently, kids know what the right thing is to do more often than not. Humans do. Humans don't always do it.
Well, listen, kids can recover. Many of them have been turned in very odd ways by the world that they live in, with their parents and their teachers and their ministers and et cetera, and come out with some very odd views. I'll put it that way.
We always, I've taught a lot of world history, and at some point you wind up teaching about different religions and their origins, because most of them are tied in with some sort of civilization. And I always have to say, this is what the people who believe in this religion believe. I'm not telling you, I remember we were talking in high school. I taught at a Catholic school, and we have a whole unit on religions. Okay, because it was a history class. And someone said to me, well, how are you going to do that? It's a Catholic school. I said, yeah, that's great. They have Christian class. They have a class with with one of the nuns about that. But I'm a history teacher. I'm going to teach them about all the different religions. I'm not here to tell them what they believe. I didn't have to be a Christian or a Catholic to work at that school. My job is to teach them about the religions. And again, even when we would talk about Christianity, I'm saying, this is not what I believe. Whether it is or isn't, they don't need to know my belief structure. This is not what I believe.
Mr. DeBlasio, why do the Jews do that to the little boys' penises?
We didn't get that into. Although we were talking the other day about the Persians and the Greeks, and how the Persians took some of the Greeks slaves when they captured Sparta, and one kid said, "Why did they do that?" And I said, "Well, throughout a lot of world history, when one group captured another group," and we had talked about it earlier this year. I don't know why he didn't ask this earlier in the year. I said a lot of times they would take those people slaves because they would believe that they were not as good because we beat them, because we beat you up in a war. We believe you're not as good, so we want to take you as slaves. And he goes, well, that's not right. And I said, yes, Abid, I totally agree. It's not right. I'm just telling you.
Wow, you
what
are
happened.
A great teacher. Your kids know that slavery is wrong.
Well, just that just the way he said it, he goes, well, that's not right. And I said, Abid, I think we all know.
6 years old, 11, right?
Yeah. I said, I think we all know slavery is not right. Again, but I'm just telling you what happened. You can interpret it any way you want. History is fact-based.
I wonder if you could be a good slave owner. Like, if you could own a person, but be regarded with respect because you feed them and you take good care of them and you train them well.
Well, isn't that the problem we've been reconciling, I'd say, the last 35 to 40 years in our country with our founding fathers?
Not really. I just thought of this wondering about Tom as my slave.
Well, no, I'm just saying overall as a country, we've been struggling with this. What to think of people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and Alexander Hamilton and,
We freed the slaves in 1865.
Right.
And then how many 100 years later they became a full person.
Yeah,
Not three-fifths. That was in 1964.
Civil Rights Act of 1964, exactly.
Yeah. And now if they're black, they have to get in a car, drive somewhere with a few forms of documentation. We're introducing poll taxes again. That's really very.
But I mean, it's not like Thomas Jefferson didn't know slavery was wrong. I mean, the guy's obviously an intelligent human being. So, you know, for all the good he did own slaves. He did have children with his slaves. So
now, Kris, what's your take on this tendency for the newer generations to rewrite history to their liking?
Again, I just think I think rewriting is the wrong word. I think we can reevaluate. I think there are some people that rewrite, and yes, I agree. But we can like I said, I mean, I think Thomas Jefferson's the classic example in U.S. history. How do we interpret Thomas Jefferson as for what he did to allow us to be a country that we are, but be a slave owner who secretly had, you know, sex with his female slave and had children that he didn't, you know, necessarily take care of, or did he take care of? And so I just think we can re-examine it with our lens, but it's hard to hold our values because our values evolve and change as people. Again, I don't think anyone thought slavery was, well, maybe there was a few people that thought slavery was right, but I think overall, even people that held slaves know that, you know, we're holding a person in bondage. This isn't right.
You know, I'll just say, my father having gone through Nazi oppression, there are people that honestly think owning slaves would be right, and that.
I think there's
you know, that these are, they're vermin. You know.
Yes. No. Absolutely. I think there's a percentage of that.
Yeah.
But I think there's definitely a percentage of, again, you know, you look at you talk about the Nazi oppression. I mean, clearly there were plenty of people that were scared to go against the grain in Nazi Germany, and we're just like, okay, like
you don't want to die, you don't want to get reported. That's, you know, that goes on in Russia too.
You know,
you guys are not being very funny now.
No, we got into serious. We can be
funny.
We're
talking. I started with, let me ask you a serious question. So we should go back to being funny. Let me be serious.
Well, that's what I love about the movie Life is Beautiful, right? The Roberto Benigni movie.
I know that movie.
Where he tries to make, you know, the game with his son, and the movie it's the lightest serious movie of all time. It's definitely the lightest concentration camp movie you could ever have, because it was funny and poignant and stuff like that. He was that's delicate to do that with a subject like that.
So
comedy, eh?
Oh, wait a minute. I had some more dating ideas for you, Kris.
Okay.
So you're out on a date with a woman who has a horse. And first of all, don't forget that a woman with a picture of herself with a horse is sending you the message, I've got a fucking horse. It means I either have a really big backyard with a stable, or I can afford to put my horse in a stable and have this poor animal just sit in a 6-by-9 foot stall until I come and ride it. And that's what I want for you, baby. So you have to telegraph to these women that you want. You just try them out, Kris. See how many you can get. So one, you need to telegraph that you're comfortable in a small space with bars in front of you. Maybe a jail picture for your profile. The other is, I don't know if you're hairy or not. You look like you could be. Pose topless and have a brush and just brush your chest.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
Okay, so another idea I got for you. We were joking about taking a picture of yourself with a bridle, just totally offensive. But on a date in a nice restaurant, if they have breadsticks, find out if they have breadsticks. Just like subtly put it in your mouth. Like that for a little bit, just to conjure up the horsey, you know. Oh, of course, you know, horses wear flannel, So
Yes, wear a lot of flannel. Okay.
So, and if you've got a flannel blanket, that would even be better. Just drape it over you like a cape. And then
what am I, a count?
wait, yeah. Well, no, she's gonna think this is some guy that needs a saddle on that blanket. Because they put a blanket underneath the saddle,
Yes, they do, yes.
And then my final tip, I think it's probably the most important. Wear a lot of leather, buddy. That's it. You got a collar, take it off a dog, leather jacket, because you're not going to wear a saddle. That would be, she would pick up on that immediately and know you're playing her.
Leather chaps and a riding whip.
Well, I normally wear chaps on a date. I mean, that's first date. I usually go with chaps. I really need to make more of this into an act, because like I said, the hashtag dating Dr. D, the horse thing has become the new thing, but
it's going to morph. You know what's going to happen? And this happened to me when I was online dating, a number of like weird things. There was one period of 2 weeks where like 3 Julies all had written to me randomly, and I'm like driving in the car and they call me, and one called from 2 months ago and they're all Julie, and I'm like, are you the art historian? Are you the and I couldn't, and I was sounding like an idiot, and I blew it with all of them. But anyway,
clearly. Well, I'm just going back on the hashtag on my Facebook, and here's one.
I will also tell you one thing, and it's kind of serious too, because if you happen to find a horsey woman you're attracted to, and she finds out that you've been doing horsey women comedy.
Well, that's what a couple of people have said to me. Well, what if you wind up dating one of these women? I said, well, if they can't take a joke, then they can go pound sand for all I care.
Have you ever sent a woman a video of your comedy?
I try not to before a first date. I try to resist that temptation.
Can I tell you something? I did that for a long time. And I'd go on these first dates and it would be flat. There were a lot of them.
Yeah.
And at some point, I said, something? This is what I do. I'm proud of it. I should be ashamed, but I'm doing it. This is what I look like. They'll see whether they have any attraction for me at all.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hear my voice, and and if they don't like the comedy, because one of the things I was thinking at the time was, if they don't like my comedy, they're not going to like me. Turns out I'm in love with a woman who doesn't really care for my comedy, but can't have everything.
Yeah, I think my comedy, again, can rub people the wrong way, make people uncomfortable sometimes, which I'm okay with. I'm totally okay with that being my style of comedy. But I think sending it to them before they really have a chance to meet me and sit down, again.
Tom is shaking his head. No, Chris, I know your comedy. You keep that to yourself. Listen, Chris, my friend, what you're going to be is something she'll never be able to find out about. Not teacher, something a little more exotic. Yeah. What are you going to be? You're going to be an animal trainer. Oh, that's good for the horses. Yeah.
There you go. Animal trainer. Right.
Yeah. A SEAL trainer. I like that. And then they'll think of 50 First Dates.
Yes.
The walrus.
I just think they need to go ahead, Tom.
You referenced different movies. Are you a movie buff by any chance?
I am a movie buff up until 2008. I think I stopped watching movies. Maybe 2010.
Maybe a question for you. Jimmy Stewart was in several Westerns. And every time he had to have a horse in the movie, he had the same horse. Any idea what the name of the horse was?
No idea. I didn't even know Jimmy Stewart was in some Westerns. I mean, I figured
Trigger.
He probably was. Yeah, Trigger. Let's go with Trigger.
No,
Sunshine.
The horse's name was Pie. And he always did his movies with Pie, and he always had the same hat. Cowboy. It wasn't a cowboy.
Did he always call the horse Pie? Did he always refer to the horse by name?
No, in the movie, it never had a name.
Right, but it was the same horse by whatever the trainer, yeah. Huh. Yeah. That's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Can
so
you
like,
do a Jimmy Stewart imitation, Chris?
I know it's one of those imitations that everyone thinks they can do terribly. I can do Dana Carvey doing Jimmy Stewart. Which is Blue doesn't live here anymore. But so like I would put like also like profiles. Like this was the girl's entire profile. This is what it said. My hands are full with being a single mother of 2 and being a caretaker of my own mother. That was it. That was the description.
And
I talked to a woman. I talked to a woman after 2 weeks of exchanging emails who was also taking care of her mother, which is what reminded me. And at some point early on in our conversation, this is like 5 minutes in, she goes, I probably shouldn't tell you this. I'm like, oh, it's okay. You can tell me. We've been writing for 2. She goes, I hear nature speak to me. I'm like, oh, I'm the same way. I love nature. She's like, no, I mean, like, I heard a tree speak to me. True story.
What did the tree say?
True story. I asked her that.
Hey, give me those.
She didn't remember. She literally, I asked her that. She did not remember. Anyway, I asked her out on a date. I planted a tape recorder behind a tree. And when we walked by, it's one of my jokes. It says, do him.
Yeah. Let him do you in the butt.
But that was a tree. She told me she heard a tree speak to her. That was one of my great dating stories. But my favorite was the dog that I met on my first date after 20 years of my marriage. My first date, I pet this dog while the woman's going up to get her purse. 30 seconds later, she sees me petting the dog in the foyer and yells down, get away from the dog, get away from the dog, go in the kitchen. I go in the kitchen. She comes down and starts blotting the carpet behind the dog. I go, I'm sorry, did I get your dog excited and peed on the carpet? She goes, not exactly. I saw it didn't poop. I'm petting this dog for 30 seconds. I gave it an orgasm.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
And in my joke, the punchline goes on something like, you know, nobody laughs. I go, or, you know, like most of you, I did not think that was funny either. The funny part of the story for me was this woman knows what I can do to her dog in 30 seconds.
I would have said me and the dog have been dating for 6 months happily now.
Yeah, I think somebody suggested I'm still getting postcards from the dog.
Here's another status. I just looking through this. I asked this question. I'll get to it in a second. I'll ask you guys the question. The question is, I said it's a 100% hypothetical question, but it wasn't. Just having a discussion with people at work. I'm 43. If I told you I was dating a woman who was considerably older than me, how old would you think she is?
55.
Okay.
I'd say mid to late 50s.
Okay.
Could be 60.
Okay. I messaged a woman and she wrote me back and she said, well, we live a little far away. It was like, you know, more than 20 minutes. That's another thing on dating apps. Like if you live more than 20 minutes, it's like, holy Jesus, you live in another country with some of these people.
Yeah, I'm the same way. No, I mean, I'll drive for a woman. I'm
not going to drive 4 hours, but
Chris, I was seeing women in New York saying, I want you to live on the A line between 57th and 80th.
Yeah, you can't take the C train. So this lady said, yeah, I'm a little far. I think we might be a little too far apart. She might have lived in Nyack. And she goes, I'm also considerably older than you. She was 46.
Oh, God.
I was like, we were in high school together.
Wow. I think that's a tight woman.
Considerably, and she used the word considerably. So that's why I put it. And right, again, just looking at the answers here to this post, you know, late 50s, 55, 50s, 60, 55. My one friend said 81 because he's an asshole. Yeah, late 50s.
Have you ever been on OkCupid? I don't know where you're at. You're on the horse. Yeah, I'm on
Horses Are Us dating.
I was on OK Stupid.
I thought it was Whores Are Us dating, but it's
so on OkCupid. You have to if a woman, you answer questions and they match you with people that answered similarly to you. And the only way you can see another person's answer is if you've answered the same question. So there's some you kind of have to answer, and some you can just get an idea about. Like if a woman is answering all these anal questions, I'm like, okay, I get it. One of them is, which is bigger, the earth or the sun? And so when they get that wrong, I'm writing to them. I mean, that's like a lot. But there was another one. It was 2 words that have the same 4 letters. Tom, help me with that.
2 words that have the same 4 letters.
Like fuck and cuff.
Cuff. Yeah, or it's not really, but yeah.
No, but whatever it was 2 words. The 2 letters were transposed and it made another word. I wish I could remember it, but it was like, if bear is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, what is beara? And so basically people had to calculate that the answer was 1, 2, 4, 3. And there were people that would get that wrong. And I'd be, thank God,
You mean the answer wasn't a yogi?
Yeah.
No,
I'm having
nobody
fun.
goes there anymore. It's always so busy.
It's always so crowded, right? I'm having fun looking back at these. I thank you for having me on the show. Here's one. If your online dating profile features the "life moves pretty fast" quote from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, you deserve to be catfished. I said, this isn't a 1989 high school yearbook.
Kris, I come from a different demographic, so I would write women like love emails, and they're available. By the way, I have a box set of my emails. You just have to change some, occupations and things like that. But I would like, I've never seen you before. I was so pleased. Oh, you're so beautiful. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
The hell are you talking about?
I don't know.
I don't think in your demographic you write, do you, how do you connect with women? Is it all email, or how do you go about getting a phone number? When do you approach? Do they approach you and say, give me your number, I'll call you?
Like in real life?
Yeah.
I haven't met a woman in real life in ages. No, I actually did. Yeah, I don't know. Meeting people in real life is a little bit awkward nowadays.
Ladies, you've seen, our lady listeners, you've seen Kris DeBlasio. If you are at all interested, he's a wonderful comedian. He has a job. He teaches children. He's been
right.
vetted.
So I'm good around kids. I have a steady job. Like, I have benefits. Like, I don't know what these broads are looking for.
Yeah, you don't need any more, honey. So listen, what you're going to do is write the funnytalkmm at gmail.com. You'll give us your vitals. I will do a little vetting. Tom will do a little vetting. And if you pass the vet, we pass it on to Kris. And you could appear on our next show and we'll set you up.
We'll do like the dating game. If a girl writes in and you guys vet her and think we should meet and go out, her and I will go out. We'll come back on the show and tell you about the date.
Donna, you and Kris have won an all expense paid trip to White Castle on Route 22 in Bound Brook. You will be picked up by Makio Sakur in his
Uber
2016 Toyota Prius.
Kris,
blue.
Also, I just bought a new car. I have a nice, lovely new smelling car, brand new, that I will gladly pick you up in and take you out to any White Castle, not just one in Bound Brook.
You should buy the new car smell cologne and spray it on you. So as you're walking down the street, women will. Ooh.
Kris, I once called for a Lyft ride. The guy showed up and says, "Lyft, you need forklift." Sorry.
I'm shaking my head, Ethiopia. The poor Ethiopians, they come to us for comedy, Tom.
I know.
And they've heard that one. I think this is like the 7th time on the show.
8. But who's counting?
Well, you were.
Yeah. I know.
Okay, so we've done our time.
Okay.
So who would like to plug anything about anything going on? Plug away.
tonight, today's Tuesday that we're recording this. You're going to release it on Facebook on Tuesday and then on YouTube maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
This Wednesday night, Wednesday, May 12th, we're doing we're taking our online game show. Myself and James Mack have an online game show called Winging It, which is sort of like a Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's all over the internets and the Spotifys and the YouTubes and all that. You can find it anywhere you find podcasts. We're doing our first live stage show at the Producers Club in Manhattan tomorrow night.
Nice.
With 4 funny comedians: Aaron Ring, Brian Boucher, Ralph Anthony, and Aiden Kelly. And then next Wednesday, the 19th, I'll be appearing at Mulligan's in Hoboken. And then that's all I really have right now in the near future. In July, I'll be in Holbrook, Massachusetts. If anybody's in Holbrook, Massachusetts.
In July,
On
you'll
July
still be in
31st.
fucking Hoboken looking for a parking spot is what you'll be doing.
You know what? Every time I go to Mulligan's, I find a spot right on the street that Mulligan's is on. It's unbelievable. I'm the luckiest parker in Hoboken.
It is unbelievable because I've done hours in Hoboken looking for a spot, wishing it was New York.
Again, you can find me on Facebook. I'm sure they'll tag me on Instagram, Funny Fat Guy 7228. You can find Winging It on any podcast networks. And I also do a podcast about basketball coaching because I coach high school basketball with a friend of mine. And that's called the Greatest Games Podcast. That's on Podbean as well and all over the podcast networks.
Nice.
You should get me to share some of my basketball tricks. You can't. I'm 5'6.5" on a humid day, Chris.
Bob Cousy was only 5'4".
Yeah, was he a good basketball player? Oh, he'd run between the legs.
Yeah, he was great. It was also 1950.
Tom, go ahead. Shame me with your comedy coming up. What do you got?
No, I've got nothing until June. This first time, I've been so busy with the move and looking for a job and this and that. I really haven't been pushing to get on shows. I was just at Loretta Winery. That was a great show. I'm going to be October 9th. My birthday, I'll be with Julia Scotti and Uncle Floyd and Steve Trevelise. And I've got a private gig in I think the end of June, early July, sometime around there. But other than that, I really haven't been out there looking.
Hey, well, that explains that. Ditto. Ditto. But I'm going to start up again because I miss getting on stage.
Yeah.
So,
amen.
what do you think I'll have to pay people to put me up, Tom?
Oh, I don't know. How much you got?
You're not getting all that. Okay. So once again, you've been listening for whatever reason to Funny Talk with Mongelli and Max and our special guest, Kris DeBlasio, DeBlasio, capital DE, capital B. Is that correct?
Yes.
LAISO. And Funny Talk has been sponsored by Jack Hoffman of J. Irwin Productions. If you want a comedy show, a fundraiser, you want a comic to come and clean your bathroom, perform for you in your dining room, on the deck, cut down a tree, write to Jack at jirwinproductions.com and he will hook you up. That's it, guys.
Yeah. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time, Chris. Always a pleasure. You too, Doug.